All right. Thanks so much for joining us on another segment of the Power Play. You can listen on iHeartRadio.com. Today we have a very special guest, Kadin Nutt. He's here with us. He's a creative founder, storyteller, and a builder, thinking very deeply into how he can create the future of ownership for artists, right? And so, his work sits between culture and technology and business at the same time. This is a conversation about the real creator economy and, who owns the ideas. So, Kadin, thanks so much for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me, bro. It's an honor.
Oh man, we can only have the best, right?
That's generous of you, bro. I appreciate
You're
it.
very welcome, man. So, just jumping right into it, man, let's talk about the elephant in the room. So, your startup, Dreamr, Tailwinds, just incredible. It's an amazing opportunity for artists to really help monetize themselves and understand their IP. But the elephant in the room is you had an offer for $150,000. Talk about that a little bit. Break that down for us.
Yeah, bro. It was an exciting moment for me as a founder because it was the first time I ever received any type of offer from an investor. So seeing someone who believes in your vision, who is willing to back you and put their money where their mouth is, excuse me, that was super exciting. It took a while, but yeah, we're raising money right now. So seeing that come through puts us in the right direction. So excited to see what comes of it.
Amazing. And you said, it's been a while, it's been a long journey, and that's how it always is, right? People only see the microwave success and they don't see the hard work in the background. What will people never guess about what happened on that journey for you to get where you're at right now?
Bro, it's crazy. I mean, it feels like hundreds of micro pivots, bro. The late nights, the early mornings. Like I kind of compare being an entrepreneur almost like to having like a kid, right? Like when that baby's got to eat. It's got to eat. It doesn't matter how early in the morning it is. It doesn't matter how late it is. It doesn't matter what you got planned for the day. It's got to eat regardless. But I kind of see, what I'm doing like almost as my ministry. And I think ministry has a lot to do with like you being crushed. It's like you're signing up for a life of being crushed. And what comes from that being crushed really is what blesses the other people, whether that's your customer, whether that's your team, regardless. So that's what I signed up for. So I'm in the game. Got to
That's
live
right.
with
That's right,
it.
man. And they say pressure makes diamonds is how you know you're gonna shine, man. And that's the true thing, right? But also just feeding that baby, right? So it's got to be
Absolutely.
fed. But let's talk a little bit about what we call neurogenesis. And I don't want to get too deep for the listeners here. I want to keep it on the surface. But neurogenesis is specifically like where you live in proximity and being able to expect your greatness. You coming out of the Bay Area, you're adjacent to the Twitters, you're adjacent to the Googles, to the Facebooks and the Metas. How did it feel growing up? Was that the inspiring part for you, knowing that in your backyard, the biggest tech companies were around?
Honestly, bro, I have to say no to that. I feel like the way that I kind of ran into this idea, like, was almost like by pure luck. Like, I wasn't really the person who was looking up to, like you said, the big Googles, the Twitters, in these big tech companies. I think I was more so looking up to the creatives that are around me. Um, in the Bay Area, we have, I think, a very underrated creative scene. And I think me being able to see that with me as a creative myself, especially, I think that's what really motivated and pushed me to want to do something, inspiring and something real.
Absolutely.
A lot of talent and a lot of amazing things have come out of the Bay Area, not just tech companies and not just these big companies. So.
Yeah, so let's talk about you, right? So that's interesting because, and of course there's a cross because if people want to listen to music, what do they have to do? Download the Spotify app, Apple Music app, Tidal app, whatever app, YouTube. And essentially there was something that inspired you. But before that, who were you before the tech founder?
Hmm. Good question, bro. Yeah, I was actually a full-time student athlete, so soccer was my thing. If you ask if you ask anyone who grew up with me, it was Caden that he's that soccer player. And I mean, humbly, I like to say I was pretty good, right? Like the dream and the goal was always actually to go pro, and God just had different plans for me. Um, but yeah, from a little kid who was waking up and going to tournaments in different cities, driving hours across the Bay Area. Um, and yeah, that was the goal, bro. That was the dream.
That's right. and dreams still come true, right? So you're living one of them right now. Let's go to the startup itself for Dreamer. Like, what gave you the idea? What gave you the drive, the passion to want to start this, and talk about what it is and how it helps artists?
Yeah, for sure. So the vision of this actually came about 6 years ago, and then from that, like I kind of mentioned before, there's been micro pivots, there's been failures, there's been things that ultimately kind of had that catapult effect and ended up becoming what we're working on now. So what we're building is called Dreamr. We basically help creative people get paid when people across the internet want to use their work. We created this agent that actually detects different usage requests across different touch points. So think email, think comment sections, think your DMs. And we help creators not only own their work, but also be in control of who else can use their work and just make that process super simple. So,
That's incredible. Wow. So you're really helping people's IP. You're not only protecting it, right, on the copyright level, but you're also helping them monetize it. Talk about how that monetization works for an artist that's like, hey man, wow, like somebody used my post, whether it was a friend or family or just someone that liked the content. Talk about how that monetization for the artist works.
yeah. So what our kind of insight was like a lot of the tools today are basically almost like tools that will protect your IP. So someone will illegally use your work and then the tool will flag it and then you can go in and either do
Pull it
like a
down.
takedown or you can potentially get like a licensing opportunity. Well, our kind of conviction is that artists really aren't trying to necessarily gatekeep their work. They just want to make sure that they're being approached and that they're fairly being paid. So that's kind of the process that we're trying to make a lot easier. We think that in the next 5 years or so, IP won't necessarily be something that is monetized as like an afterthought, but more so something that's actually like a primary transaction type for creatives, especially like with the rise of AI and things and people who are like legally using your work and want to use your work. We think that is going to be a really big emphasis in the creative world. So.
And I see it and that's amazing because you're thinking of something that's going to have tailwinds 5 to 10 years from now. It's going to be like a big deal, especially with the volume of content that's going to be created with AI. So that's just incredible to think. But with great ideas, there's an inspiration in the background. Most of the profound and prolific creators say that these ideas are downloaded to them. So talk about that first moment. What was that moment for you where it clicked? You're like, oh shoot, I'm seeing something happen here, and I see a problem and I see a solution. Talk about that a little bit.
I love that. Yeah. So 6 years ago, I was actually working on a vision board. And the inspiration kind of came like randomly. I think we were in the time of like COVID, so had a lot of time like to sit and be still and like in a way kind of do nothing. And I think with that nothingness, it gives, God and it gives the opportunity for you to get inspired and for ideas to come and it gives you opportunity to think. Um, and it kind of happened honestly simply in that way by just being still. And the idea that we got isn't necessarily what we're working on now, but it is a very similar problem. So, you get the problem and you try things, you start building, you fail, you fall flat on your face, but you use those failures. And if you stay in the game, one way or another, eventually you'll run into something that might actually work. So
That's right, man. Burn it down, collect the ashes, build it back, respect your passion, man. That's Nipsey Hussle right there. So and what you're doing is just amazing, right? And I think that artists might veer away from technology because they fear it. Because now you look at Spotify, right? People get a less than a penny for a stream, so they don't look at technology as really their friend. They look at it more like a foe. Like it's like, how can I beat the algorithm? XYZ. So what do you say to the artists that essentially, don't necessarily see the importance of technology yet? Like, what do you say to them about like your technology and why it's important for them?
I love that question, bro, because I really see this like almost as a way of like fighting back for creators. I think AI and technology has detracted so much value from creative people and in our world today. And I kind of see our project as doing something that's completely the opposite and kind of fighting against these big AI companies that don't necessarily understand, what it is to be a creative and what that means. I think the way that we're kind of approaching it, it really puts the creative first. And like I remember this quote that I read, like, and it was like, I want AI to do my dishes. I don't want it to create my art. I don't want it to um replace my creative process. So the way I think technology can actually benefit a lot of creatives is by doing that. It's by handling a lot of the business stuff that we don't really want to do anyway. It's by doing the spreadsheets. It's by doing
The
these
admin work,
tedious
just all
tasks
that.
that,
Yep.
yeah, that don't have really
Yeah.
anything to do with, the creative process. Um, and I think it can also, in a way, scale creativity. I'm all for scaling creativity, just not replacing the creativity. Because,
Yeah.
you and I know that being a creative is about telling a story. It's about sharing your point of view. That's why we listen to our favorite music, why we look at our favorite paintings. And that's not something that AI is ever really going to be able to replace. Like I tell creatives this, artists this all the time. You don't really have anything to fear on that front. But you do have something that we call technology and AI that can definitely help you be more efficient and be more independent and not have to, sell your soul to these labels and these other people who are kind of trying to take advantage of you because technology can kind of take that place now.
Yeah, and let's unpack that a little bit because let's play devil's advocate, right? Because
Yeah.
some of the AI companies, whether it's like a Suno or XYZ, personally feel like what they're doing is making it easier and more efficient for artists to create music faster with speed and efficiency and accuracy. What do you say to that artist? Or better yet, what do you say to that founder that might not understand the culture because music is culture? What do you say to that founder and like what do you feel like the disconnect is?
Yeah. This is my conviction, right? And some people may disagree with this, some people may not, but I don't think that being an artist isn't always about the scale and it isn't always about how fast can I do this. It's about the journey of becoming and actually creating something and sharing that with the world. So I think that's the piece that a lot of founders in this space kind of forget. And kind of like what I mentioned before, I think a lot of these founders don't necessarily understand what it is to be an artist and what it means to be a creative. Because when you take away that human part of it, like it's to me like it's no longer even art. Like, that's what it really means to be an artist. And I think a lot of creative people would say the same. Maybe some wouldn't, but that's my humble opinion. Yeah.
Right. And so, where do you think AI becomes dangerous for creators? Because you talked about the soulless thing, but like really where the serious danger is. Like, where do you think that is?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cases that I've seen where AI is like basically like taking something that an artist or creator has created and then taking that and then actually making because you know how there's like AI generated art now. It's actually using this stuff and then using someone else's work to create an AI generated work. So I think that's what's really, really dangerous. And there are tools out there that will flag stuff like that, thankfully. Obviously, we're in a kind of different lane, but I think that's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah,
But there
because
are
that was
people fighting that. Yeah.
right. Because that was my next question. Can we see Dreamer helping to mitigate that? And that sounds like a problem itself, right? Because the AI is being trained off of current works from artists, which they have a problem with. They're like, I spent years vocal coaching, working on my voice, and now someone's able to use my voice to make a song with my likeness, So,
Yeah.
I guess that's another problem, right? For some type of startup to solve. So, what's been the hardest part of getting people to believe in your vision, right? Because, there's some people that can believe until they see, and there's some people that need to believe to see to believe. So,
Mm.
for yourself, and on this journey, what has been the hardest part about getting people to see your vision?
That's a good question. I think I'm not like naturally like a businessman. I'm very entrepreneurial, but I think when I stepped into like the startup space as this creative person, there was so much that I had to learn, like so many like terms, like financial terms and business terms and like all these buzzwords that we use in the startup world and stuff that I had no idea what it even meant. And I'm stepping into these meetings with investors and with business people with their fancy suits on and stuff. And I think at first it was like I had no idea like where I even was. But I think by continuously and consistently stepping into those rooms, excuse me, it forced me to learn in real time. And a lot of time that was through failure by getting rejected. But it's got me to where I am now. Like I'm like we talked about earlier, we got a 150K offer on the table. So that's pretty cool. So I guess it shows that I'm doing something right despite it. So yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the future of Dreamer. What does the next 5 years look like for artists, AI, and ownership for this company?
Yeah, bro. I think our biggest goal, like kind of what I mentioned before, is like really just to put the artist first. Like we have our tool that's getting ready to launch soon, and like our biggest goal is like to just talk to users and to talk to artists, to talk to creators every single day and see what exactly is it that they actually want and what's actually going to help benefit them. Because a lot of times you have an idea and you think it's the greatest thing in the world, but it's not necessarily what your user wants. So my biggest goal is just to be a servant for artists, to be a servant for creators in this space, and to help them win. And whatever that ends up looking like, that's what it ends up looking like, you know. I don't really see this as something that's about me. I try to live my life as a servant. So, and like I said, my business is what I feel like is my ministry. So, my goal is to be a servant, man. To
That's right. And you know what's crazy when you say that? Ultimately, your business is your ministry, like you said, your startup, and you're looking for people to evangelize, like, and get out there and like spread the good word about like what you're doing and how it can affect other artists. And that's what true network effects are. So that's incredible for you, man. Last thing, for that 150,000, obviously if an investor is looking at putting down that much, there's a valuation connected to that, right? So now your company has a valuation. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, do you know that number? Is it like 1 or 2 million? Like, where's your current valuation sitting at?
yeah. So our valuation is 1.7 million pre-money. I mean, we're pretty early where I would say you can consider us probably pre-traction. But we have an incredible team. Like we have um, people who I'm working with who I never thought I'd be able to work with, honestly, bro. It's nothing but God. But people who have experienced like successful exits, people who have raised pretty large rounds from venture capital, from angel investors. And we have an idea that's been validated by actual people, by actual creatives. So um, that's kind of where we're sitting at right now.
That is incredible, man. So, Caden, thank you so much for being here. This conversation is way bigger than the tech. It's about the power of ownership and making sure creators are not just used for the culture, right? But respected as builders of value. Caden, thanks so much for being here. Much success on Dreamer, and I can't wait to have you on again and seeing you at the BET Weekend Experience.
Yes, sir, brother. Thank you for having me, bro. It's been an honor.